So it's all very simple. We have a clear description of sustainability. We have a clear description of the kind of demographic and economic and environmental circumstance we find ourselves in. Now all we have to do is go to work. Really easy stuff. Einstein is the one who said, by the way, if you spend on any given problem 90 to 95% defining it properly, and I would add informing people about that clear definition, and the 5% that's remaining is getting to work and solving it, you have a best chance of success. So we think, you know, we're academics, I confess, it's true, but you put that out there this way, and then you turn it to a population like we have here in Western New York. We have a new approach to making change. And that's what this is about. And one thing is the kind of terror. You hear a description about where we are today and how challenging it is and how many gigatons of carbon we're apt to put in the air if we don't draw another ounce of carbon from. We just use what we've saved already. And you realize how much trouble we're in. And you just sort of want to exit screaming, hold my head, I give up, the world is coming to an end, we're done. It doesn't have to be that way. And our belief, our faith, our confidence in human resilience and capacity suggests that step by step we can turn this around. So what we've been doing in One Region Forward is engaging thousands of us. Let me say that again. Thousands of us in this explanation of what it is we're trying to achieve, why, and what the challenges are we face. This is across the Buffalo-Niagara region, and they've shaped a direction for One Region Forward. That base of support continues to multiply every day. We are, and hang on to this, 64 cities and towns. And then put on top of that autonomy, as many school districts, hospitals, community-based organizations, all with the authority to act on behalf of the constituencies they work with and serve. We all need to act, and there's no God, there's no czar, there's no Stalin who's going to drive it all. You all will drive it all. They will drive it all. The question is, drive it to where? Extinction, or a successful region where we can all live life well? So as we look at that complexity, we realize that each organization we work with that is home to those thousands of citizens that are stepping up to the challenge of sustainability, each one of those has a mission. They have their own sources of authority and resources and capacities. We have to find a way collectively to organize action in a way that doesn't threaten each of those individual capacities, because we are a democracy. That means it is messy. It will be messy. It will be a continuing challenge. We could wish all of that complexity to go away. It won't. And if it did, we might wonder what we wished for, because what would go with it? So making the plan to move One Region Forward has been built on a broad base of collaboration. There's a steering committee that's got strong involvement by subject matter experts, by organized input from business and government, and by participation by the broader constituencies and community-based organizations across our region. Putting this plan into action is going to require us to do the same network of partners to get things done. We've got to have the team. The plan will frame a vision for us. We believe that vision holds up a mirror to that complexity. The 64 municipalities, school districts, the whole frame. It will outline strategies that they collectively can subscribe to. And it will begin to assign action steps in a way that not like, here's your job, go do it, but I see my job in the package. I will move forward with it. And I understand it in relationship to how everybody else is moving. The analogy I like to use with this complexity of things, 64 municipalities, all those school districts, all this other stuff going on, is think of this big gelatinous mass. I mean, really big. And then imagine our usual approach of thinking about things. Well, if I measure it properly, I find its center of gravity, I back up, I run real hard, and I kick it right at the center of gravity, that mass will move in the proper direction. Yes! And what we all know, because you all have been there more times than I have, is that mass will sort of jelly up a little bit and more than likely and fall on you. You just... But if we collectively, across all of our region, pat that mass with some affection, some recognition of why it is the way it is, some adjustments here or there, of course, then all of that affection will start it moving. And we'll begin to feel our region become more sustainable, more resilient, better, and more conducive to the quality of life we all aspire to. So it's not one size fits all, it's not one way of working, it's with respect and collaboration that we push this gelatinous mass down the road to a sustainable future. Our steering committee could become an important part of this implementation, but more on the order of a little more pat over here, please. How about over that? Rather than you've got to do this or I'm going to whack you. So it has a very different kind of attitude about governance and about democracy and about the strength invested in independent action. It gives us a forum for where and how we monitor progress. Maybe we need to move the vector this way a little bit. To solve problems collectively in a team sport fashion, to share information, perhaps most importantly, going back to Lincoln's quote, a well-informed public is an extraordinarily powerful element. And then finally, we start to hold one another accountable. Gee, I wish. Maybe together we could do it this way. Those kinds of interventions start to change the direction of our region. So, and by the way, we're going to learn as we go. We are not as smart as the Iroquois Federation. We don't know what it's going to take for 7 generations or more. And we're going to teach each other about how that works. So, bottom line, we don't need a new, powerful central agency to build a regional sustainability. Might be helpful someday down the road if we choose to do that in some fashion, but at the moment, that's not the destination we foresee in the short term. We have more confidence in the strength of collective action in the kind of team constructions we're describing. Each organization doing what it can do. The plan is a vision, it's a target to shoot at, it's a guide. One region forward isn't a bureaucracy, as much as I've come to know and love bureaucracies. It's just not. It's not made that way. It's a network of willing partners. So we're already implementing the plan. One of the key insights in this kind of where are we today is already moving in many of the right directions, largely due to the work that folks like you and in our television audience are engaged in. Hundreds of projects are complete or ongoing that will help realize this vision. We are better today than at any time in the last 40 years in terms of positive, proactive movement toward a more resilient community. That's a hell of a statement, but it's right where we need to be. 45 months, month over month, of real job growth in the region. Not since World War II have we experienced that kind of potential, that kind of life. Looking more, as Kelly says, like every other economy in the United States, not so imbalanced. We've lost manufacturing, but you know what? It is still above our weight in terms of size and capacity. And we can continue that while we build more. But it's a good structure for our economy. We can scale up small efforts that are taking positive action and make them even better. So you look at a town of Amherst's new master plan that says things rather specifically about walkable mixed-use town centers. And you say, whoa, what if a lot of municipalities thought that kind of energy was a good way to go? You would begin to find a kind of less dependence on transportation, less sprawl, more engagement of the already built-up areas, and more efficiency in the maintenance and repair and care for those areas as a function of that concentration. The village of Hamburg installed roundabouts to make intersections safer. We did one on the University of Buffalo campus. It was interesting. People said, oh, you're going to kill people there. That's new stuff. The reality is, if you don't do the roundabout, you're more likely to kill people. And so suddenly this technology, this new understanding and way of making things is both beautiful, slows the traffic down, and increases the possibility of a walkable community where you can live life well. If modern roundabouts were a standard part of our transportation infrastructure, we would have a safer infrastructure. Push Buffalo, a terrific kind of West Side Buffalo organization, renovating old housing on the West Side, providing kind of sustainable income or housing for lower income families. That's a very powerful model. Pretty small. Not small in terms of the level of effort and who's doing it, but pretty small. But what if we had 50 of them? Or what if one did a lot more? How do you scale up things that seem to be working in the best interest of living life well in the neighborhood? So what are the new capacities that we need to develop that rehab housing and match them with citizen-inspired neighborhood plans? That kind of opportunity is what we're going to look at through the Citizen Champion program and through your own work as you return to your communities and neighborhoods. At the University of Buffalo, we built a solar park. It was a power plant, but we hired an artist to do it. And we made outdoor rooms to live in and play in and learn in as part of it. And we created an industrial park that you can put your fingers on and understand better in the spirit of teaching and educating people about the possibilities of reducing our carbon footprint and making great places to be. So how does that scale up in the solar fields and windmills and geothermal solutions of the future to reduce that carbon emission? One project at a time. How much greenhouse gas could we avoid? 200 families get together and get fresh produce through community-supported agricultural programs in our region. Whoa, what if there were more? And how would that distribution work in relationship to the transportation demands of external food supplies versus locally grown and sourced food? How much more secure? How much more wholesome? What if there were 1,000 CSA programs in the Buffalo-Niagara region? One CSA at a time. We have some very serious resources for action, financial, organizational, and otherwise. And those resources are also there as part of the infrastructure that we've built for One Region Forward. The plan to move us forward relies and aligns with the strategy for prosperity of the Regional Economic Development Council, established by our governor, but downloaded to a 5-county region. 5 counties who, by the way, prior to this, really didn't talk to each other very much. But now they're in a good conversation. They've painted a common economic development future. They understand the differences across. And we have the machinery in place to align 11 state agencies with the directions they might frame. The Buffalo Billion is another component of that way of thinking about how you use our tax dollars given back to the state and return to us in ways that help move in the direction of One Region Forward, the prosperity plan and the plan for the Buffalo Billion. On our panel, when we go to questions and answers this afternoon or this morning, we'll have Laura Cabral join us, who's the project manager at the University of Buffalo's Regional Institute, working with the Empire State Development Corporation on the economic development strategy of the REDC and the Buffalo Billion. So you begin to get a sense of how what we're talking about in One Region Forward is also what's being talked about in that environment. So this has got legs independent of, but in addition to, the things we've already talked about in terms of one project at a time. We've got some serious infrastructure in place and aspiring to be better still. That infrastructure related to the Greater Buffalo-Niagara Regional Transportation Council and our transit systems is a major tool for plan implementation. If you get the transportation right, a lot of the other stuff drags around behind it. And I think we kind of understand that in hierarchical terms. It's like put the big rocks in before the little rocks in, you'll get more in. We have some very serious resources for action across the Erie and Niagara County themselves. Here you do have a bit of a stick. relative to the kind of gelatinous mass conversation I had. It's kind of a break. It sort of says, here's the bumpers on this road. You can't do a whole lot more sewer. You can't do a whole lot more water hookups without some address by the county saying, okay, that's a good idea. And they have to assess the viability of that in relationship to what it costs to build it and to maintain it and what the tax revenues are that support it. We're already significantly overbuilt in that area if we understand our stats. So how much more out there do you go with that material? Most of all, the best resource we have is the people in this room and the enthusiasm that we've felt around One Region Forward. We've seen that package build. We see the kind of cooperation, the advocacy organizations and others that are devoted to this process and to the resources, intellectual and handwork, in the grassroots of each community is the possibility for significant change without almost anything else I've said. Just go do it. It's the grassroots garden, it's the community kind of events that bring fresh produce to the environment, it's the way in which we care for and maintain our existing housing stock, the way in which we look at the new school that the Buffalo school program has brought us, we look at the crack house across the street and we say no. And now you've got a different kind of thing. It's not just the school, it's the neighborhood. And as those neighborhoods get better, one house, one lot at a time, one drop in crime stat at a time, those neighborhoods become more viable places to live, and we have a better community to live in. I'm a planner. When Dwight David Eisenhower says plans are useless, I want to shoot myself. But what he goes on to say is exactly to the point of this conversation. It's the planning. What are you doing? How are you going to do it? And what did you learn from trying that one that's going to make you change how you think about the next one? And then it's not just one plan, whack it out of the park. It's thousands of them all over our region. That's the planning that'll bring this region back. And if you think about planning, you say, well, it's a dog that doesn't hunt very well in this area. Who needs another plan on the shelf? Think about it instead as getting ready to do something. If it's getting ready to do something and you're part of the action team, you're out there. It's on the way. We can always be working to understand our situation, think about how to make it better, and we can always plan and do at the same time. I think about this the way I think my family has thought about raising children. You see this child, and you know in that child, the way you behave today is how that child becomes as an adult. And you're always thinking about both things at once. Planning and immediate action and long-term consequence. Keep it going. We are raising children, we are raising a region. One of the greatest resources is you. What we're learning and the things you're trying to do will change Buffalo Niagara step by step, piece by piece. And nothing can stop us but ourselves. We're the only ones that can make this stop. So let's go to work. We'll have a good time with this school. I think the citizen champions and the teaming we're going to be able to do with technical support and your grassroots advocacy will start to bring us to a still stronger position in moving this one region forward. I thank you very much. I want to bring Bart back to us.